What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It is me, your boy, the bald, the beard, the beautiful Piers Austin, and tonight I am blessed to have an amazing guest be joining us tonight. Before I bring out Aysha, I just want to take a quick second, a quick pause. My microphone up a little bit. Thank you very much. Damn technical difficulties. I have to sack my production team, which is myself. So anyway, getting right into it, guys. Let's thank some sponsors. First up is A-Rock Design. So A-Rock Designs is that company you were seeing all over the wrestling Facebook pages, the wrestling Instagram pages. They make custom wrestling cups, hoodies, t-shirts, keychains, tumblers, you name it, they make it. They made me my custom CM Punk tumbler, which I absolutely love. Make sure you go check them out. They do an incredible product for an incredible price, and you won't be disappointed. Next up is Signal Studios, baby. So Signal Studios is that recording studio that can mix, master, produce, record any type of track that you're wanting to record. If you're a band, you're looking for a place to rehearse, a place to jam, a place to get your creative juices flowing, you will not find a more comfortable rehearsal space than Signal Studios. Or if you're an independent wrestler, you need to get your hands on some hot entrance music, you can hit up my boy Rafi at Signal Studios, and he'll be able to get that bad boy of a track out to you and have it sounding pretty dope, pretty fly, and all that cool shit that the kids are saying today. But guys, we got the chat going in. We got Maxine tuning in from Quebec, Canada. Thank you very much. We got Kyle Eade in the house. We also have Joel Southgate. But guys, let's bring out my guest. It is Aysha. Aysha, thank you so much for joining us on Shooting the Shit Uncensored tonight.
Thanks for having me here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, Aysha. I first saw you with some of the promos that you were doing for Deathmatch Down Under, and I'm one of those wrestling fans. Is like when I see something like new, it's like, okay, now I have to know like the backstory of the performers, of like where have they trained, where have they been, like who have they wrestled for, and you know you've been wrestling for a few years now. You know, a lot around the Melbourne scene. You know, we were talking before, you've wrestled down in Sydney a little bit, but you know, Aysha, when did you fall in love with wrestling? Like I can imagine everyone is a fan at some point, right?
Yeah. So it all started for me when I was 9 years old. Back in 2009. I was at a Supernova event, like a Comic-Con, and they had wrestling there, and I've never seen wrestling before. I saw the ring all set up. And as a kid, I always liked action movies and stuff, so like anything action always appealed to me. So I saw this ring, and my dad was with me. I was like, "What's this?" And it's like, "Oh, it's wrestling." And like he told me how he used to watch a little bit of it as a kid. So then I just stopped there and watched the like entire little program that they had there, and I was pretty much hooked. And like wanted more. Like I think they had like 3 little matches going on, and yeah. Then after, maybe a week after, I saw SmackDown, and then I was like, wait, this is like an actual thing. So ever since then, I've just been into wrestling. It's never really stopped.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with a lot of people. Like, you know, like I think some people get out of it when it becomes uncool when you're a teenager. You know, but for me, like I was a wrestling fan when I was a kid, and then like when I was a teenager, the Attitude Era started, so it was like really cool to like wrestling at that time. So I've kind of been the same way. Like I've always loved it from like start to all the way through life, you know. But like, who were some of the biggest influences in your style? Like, who were some of the wrestlers that you looked at and wanted to not emulate, but like inspired you the most?
Well, back then, my favorites were guys like Triple H, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton. I was really into like Melina. I got into Victoria as well, watching old stuff. And then as I grew older, AJ Lee was a really big one for me. And John Moxley as well. I was really into The Shield as well. So people like that were like people that really inspired me. And also, as an Australian, Emma Tennille was someone that was like inspirational, because it's like, wait, Australians can like get to like WWE and like succeed in wrestling, because like obviously when you're that young, you have like no idea that it's a possibility to get there, especially seeing that she started at PCW, which is where I train. That was like a huge like step for me to be like, yes, I can do this. So yeah.
And you know what? I think that that's when like you start to see, and I've said this, you know, quite a few times with Australian wrestling, that it's grown so much over the years. Like it's always been good for many, many years. Australian wrestling has been good, but probably in the last, say 10 to 12, 13 years, maybe you've started to see more Australians break out internationally and be recognized on a big scale, like WWE, AEW, even places like Ring of Honor, CZW, and promotions like that are still, you know, independent wrestling, but on the higher up scale of that, you know, and seeing the Australians actually get recognized and being on those shows, it's a big accomplishment for Australian wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, so like, how old were you when you decided, you know what, I want to try and get in there and become a professional wrestler yourself?
It was almost like instant. Since I got into it, I just kind of knew that I wanted to do it. Like I couldn't tell you like a specific point, but it was just ever since like I was into wrestling, I knew that I wanted to do it because it's almost like anything I got into, I would want to try it. Like as a kid, I used to play tennis. And that was my first dream, was to be like a tennis player. But then it kind of, my love for wrestling got higher than that. But then also I ended up working at the Australian Open as like a ball kid, as an umpire. So just like, I'm that type of person that tries to like achieve something within something that I'm interested in. So yeah,
almost like if you're going to do something, you're going to do it to the extreme, to the point as like high as you can get it to go. But that's a good trait to have, though. Like that's determination, though. Like that's got to be, you know, that's something that, you know, you need to have in professional wrestling in order to succeed. You know, is that grit and determination to sort of, you know, just keep coming back for more. But do you remember the first time you went and started training in a ring? Like when you know, went down there, like the first day of training, was it like an intimidating experience for you, or was it, you know, quite the opposite?
Oh, it was so intimidating. I was so young. I was 16. Because that's the youngest you can sign up to be at PCW. So pretty much like a few months after. I think it was like my birthday's September, and then the next year, January, I signed up as like my New Year's resolution. So I signed up to train, and I remember my mom dropped me off, and at the front I always like had thoughts to just turn back because I was just so scared of what's on like the other side of the door. But everyone there was really like welcoming, really nice, very encouraging. So once I got in there, like it felt fine. And I've always been like active as a kid, so there was nothing too hard. Of course, like the bumps sucked, because like you don't go through anything like that like as a kid or anything.
Yeah.
So that was like obviously the hardest bit, but it like I could go through it because I was always active as a kid and wasn't that bad. And yeah, I loved it. Like
I think as well,
I loved it.
I think as well, like starting at 16 years of age, like where like there's still that no fear mentality, as you know what I mean? Like it's, you know, I think it's like when you're still that young enough, which is, and I don't want to like be rude, but you're young and dumb enough to not think of like consequences or pain of afterwards. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, this is cool, let's do it, you know?
Legit, like when I was 17, first time I tried a 450, hit it, have not been able to hit it since because I'm too petrified to try it again. But me as a 17-year-old got up there and did one, and I can't do it ever since. So yeah, I've noticed that as I've gotten older, that like it's a little bit harder.
But you know what, in saying that, you could probably get up there and do one like right now, and it's like you could probably pull it off, right?
Yeah, it's just as you get older, you like, I don't know, you're not as fearless as you were when you were younger.
Oh, 100%. You know, like I've got kids, like I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and she is just like, man, no fear, like just dives headfirst off the couch and headbutts and everything, man, and just like, Jesus, like, yeah, like just no fear. But you know, like once you started getting in there, how long did it take before you actually started getting on shows?
So I started January 2016, and then I believe my first match was September the 17th. So I really want to make my debut before, because I was 16. I want to make it before my birthday, which was the 28th. So I debuted 17th. So I was lucky to get that debut before I turned 17. So about 9 months it took me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that was, and do you remember the first match? Like, who was it against? You know, like where at?
So it was at PCW, and it was against Natasha Webb, who still wrestles. And yeah, she was great. She was very, I was freaking out, and she was very nice to me, and like gave me the time to like get my stuff in, even though there wasn't a lot of stuff I knew how to do. But yeah, it was really good, and I got like really good feedback. And at that point, I actually felt like ready. Like I had enough training, so I had a bit of confidence there, and that like even though I didn't know a lot, I felt that I was capable of like going through a match at that point.
Yeah, like you had the basics down, and I think that
Yeah.
you know from what I've spoken to, you know, some, you know, obviously previous wrestlers, you know, that have retired, when they trained, a lot of it was like learning how to bump, lock up, and the rest you just learn out on the road. Like that's pretty much how you learn. It's like the psychology and the move set you just pick up along the way.
Absolutely.
You know, and how did you find like that first match? Like, was that like an adrenaline rush for you? Like once it was done, was it like, thank God it's over, but like I got to do it again?
Oh, it was crazy. A huge adrenaline rush. Nothing that like I've ever felt before. I've never like it wasn't the most like it's obviously I've wrestled in front of more people than that, but as my debut, I've never like had that much people like pay attention to me and like watch me do that. It's just amazing. Like it was just nothing I never experienced. And after that, I'm like, I need more. And that's obviously why I'm still here.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that that's the thing, you know, getting that inspiration and going out there. And, you know, one of the things that I wanted to ask is, you know, being a female in the world of professional wrestling, like now is the time for, you know, people from all walks of life to be involved in pro wrestling, just in regards to how open it is and seeing intergender matches. You know, was it ever a fear to you, you know, obviously seeing, you know, I think when, you know, you were a fan of pro wrestling, it was more coming into that women's revolution almost with like Paige coming in, you know, around that 2009 time. But did you ever see like the pro wrestling in the way that women's matches were? And was that ever a fear of like, oh, if it ever gets back to that, that's where I have to compete at?
Yeah, I guess I don't think I thought too much of it. I think the main thing on my mind was that I wanted to wrestle. And luckily, like the start of my career, that's when women's wrestling got better. So I guess I was just really lucky. But I wasn't really a concern. I just wanted to wrestle, as a dream growing up. So yeah, that wasn't like a huge thing for me, I guess.
Yeah, and I think now, like with all the world has definitely seen the women's revolution in wrestling, where women's matches have been, you know, main events of WrestleMania. You know, wrestling matches now with men and women can be put on, and it's, you know, more, you know, a believable style match and not just like a gimmick match. It can be something, you know, intergender wrestling can be really great wrestling, like any type of wrestling match. You know, and that's my thought on it. And I was never really that big in intergender wrestling, but seeing, you know, like performers like yourself and Murdoch and, you know, the guys in PWA and other performers in Deathmatch Down Under, doing the intergender wrestling matches can be, you know, when done right and good wrestling is involved in it, it's second to none.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, but, you know, in saying that, you know, do you have a preference? Like, do you prefer like having like a standard, you know, one-on-one match with a female, or do you not care and want to wrestle anybody and everyone? Like, is there a preference for you as a performer?
I don't think there's a preference. Yeah, I just really want to wrestle anyone, anybody I can. Because there's still like a lot of people in Australia that I haven't wrestled since the majority of my career has been at PCW, and I'm only just starting to branch out a bit. So it's just been exciting to just wrestle whoever I possibly can.
Yeah. And who's been probably like on your list now as being someone that you'd really like to get in there and have a match with in the Australian scene?
Well, I just ticked off Kellyanne for me, and I guess another person I'd really like to wrestle is Jessica Troy. She looks like she's been really killing it. And I remember even Charlie Evans as well, I remember before I started training, I went to local shows, and they were on some of the shows here in Melbourne. And they were very new at that point, very like green. So it's amazing to see how much they've improved and like where they're at now. So it'd be like very like it would be amazing to like be able to share the ring with those girls.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree with you. Both amazing performers, as like yourself as well. And I think that, anyone, one of them that you could get in the ring with and have a match with would be, 5-star all the way. But when you first got into wrestling, did you have any particular goals in mind that you wanted to achieve? Like, was it like, I want to get to WWE, or I want to get to, signed to a major promotion, or was that like the biggest goal for you at the time, or was it like small goals and step by step for you?
I think the biggest goal for me was always like to get signed. And it even is now. Especially when you're a kid, like the only wrestling is WWE, so that's kind of like your first thing to think about. You want to get to WWE. So yeah, I think it's still kind of the same.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is like whenever you can reach the pinnacle of of what you do, and do it for a living for the biggest company in the world, and that's always the sort of end goal, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, and it's the thing I love the most. So I want to like get to the highest point I possibly can with it.
Oh, 100%. Do you prefer to be heel or babyface though?
I think I prefer to be heel character-wise, but a lot of other places, normally at PCW, I wrestle as a heel, but a lot of places have been booking me as a face, and I've been really enjoying that wrestling-wise, because as a heel, I try not to do anything too flashy to get like pops or anything. So like I've been trying like cooler stuff as a face, and that's been like really fun to be flying around, dragging people doing ranas and stuff, and yeah, it's been like really fun. So I think I'm pretty like even right now in terms of it. So yeah, either way, like I'm happy to do.
And that's the thing, you mentioned like, not doing the flashy moves as a heel to get those pops. And I think a lot of wrestling that you see, for years has, wrestlers doing the flashy, cool moves when they're supposed to be heel, getting that heel heat and then getting pops from the crowd from doing. It's almost like it's cool to be a heel with a lot of things. And I think, to hear someone who is in the business say, like, no, I don't do that because I don't want to get that reaction. And it's like the two different styles of wrestling with heel and face.
Exactly.
So, but, when you wrestle as a heel, what do you find, the most entertaining about it? Do you think it's like, because you get like, because it gives you a chance to do more character wise than what you can with a baby face?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier character-wise, to just be like an absolute like dickhead and just be annoying. Even like I have this thing going on. I wrestled Kellyanne and I beat her. I have this thing where I'm just gonna constantly mention that I beat Kellyanne to the point that like the fans just get really annoyed by it. So I like to annoy people, I guess. Like I got little sisters that I like to annoy, so I guess I kind of get I can just do it to anyone. Like I can't do that like in a public space, so wrestling kind of gives me that opportunity to just be an absolute dickhead, I guess.
But that is like that's like it's such a cool way to do it. It's like, it just allows me to be a dickhead to people. And
exactly,
like,
you can't do that in public.
It's socially acceptable. It's like
yeah,
it's like it's okay. She's a wrestler. She can do that.
Yeah.
No, I like it. And, one of the things you mentioned, like obviously, flying around the ring, as being a baby face with the other promotions, do you find it, as far as like difference in getting heat and getting pops and stuff like that, like, what's the feeling? Because you said, you used to being a heel most of your time in PCW and now, branching out, being booked as in the face role. Is it feel, different getting that sort of, I mean, like, oh wow, I'm not used to getting cheered, or is it like, oh yeah, they like me? Like, is it, I mean, like, do you feel a sense of accomplishment?
Especially the first deathmatch show, I was almost like surprised how over we are. Like, we were really over. They were loud for us, so that was like really surprising because like I'm so used to just everyone yelling at me, PCW, calling me a bitch, and all these other words that I won't say here.
Wow.
So yeah,
They're ruthless
it's really
in
interesting.
PCW.
Huh?
They're ruthless fans in PCW.
They are. They absolutely are. I'm concerned. I think some of them think it's real. I feel like just the way they are.
Yeah, like I've seen some people at some local shows, and I'm just like, let me smarten you up, please. It's like telling your child that there's no Santa Claus with some people, you know. But, you know, and that's the thing. So, you know, beating Kellyanne, you know, is a pretty big accomplishment. And I think that, you know, definitely by having that in your repertoire and in your bank to use as a heat magnet, absolutely can see it happening, you know. And, you know, you've got a show in Sydney coming up with FWA Wrestling Xena. You know, how is this one of the bigger matches that you've had here in Sydney when you've come down?
Yeah, I'd say so. Last time I was down, it was BCW, and that was a women's title match. I lost that one, but at FWA, I have another one, so I guess that's kind of equal. But I think it's more like of a highlight, I'd say, because it's like it's a new company for me to work with, a new opponent. So there's a lot of excitement going towards it.
Yeah, and I think you know, like there's got a few people on the card as well. I think Murdoch's wrestling as well on that card, if I saw it correct. Is he?
No, I don't. No, he's not on that.
Oh, he's not. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I thought I saw him on there. Sorry, Murdoch. I know he's watching, so he's sending out some comments here tonight. You know, but you know, in saying that as well, like, you know, coming down to Sydney and wrestling in front of a different crowd, you know, do you plan to get around into interstate wrestling more now that the borders are starting to open up a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Especially like Sydney's the only place interstate I've wrestled at, so I definitely want to like open that more and like go to like Adelaide, Perth, etc. Yeah, I'm all for it because it just means more experience and more opportunities to get better and connect with people.
And if you could go anywhere in the world to wrestle, like, you know, just take COVID out of the question, where would be one of the main places that you'd want to go, and who would you want to wrestle the most?
This question always stunts me. I mean, in terms of place, probably America, since there's just so much opportunity there.
Yeah.
In terms of someone to wrestle, I always get stumped with this question because there's so many to choose from.
I mean, there's so many names as well that you can choose from to wrestle. Like,
I suddenly go blank on like everyone as well every time I get asked.
All right, okay. Well, personally, you could have 3 matches. Who would be the top 3? Or is that made it hard?
Because I couldn't even choose one, so now I gotta choose 3. Yeah, I'm kind of stunned for some reason.
Kind of stunned. Yeah, no, yeah. Look, there's a lot of great talent around the world. It's hard to just sort of. So, you know, and I think as well, you know, you look at, you know, the Australian scene as well is so hot, you know, right now, with so much talent going around, and a lot of shows sort of popping up as well, which is great. Because it's, you know, that's great seeing, you know, different people popping up and wrestling, and, you know, seeing PWA Deathmatch Down Under. You know, in saying that, like, you know, working for a company like Deathmatch Down Under, is the thought of you doing a death match, you know, something that you would consider doing?
Because
it's not for everybody. It's not
for everyone. It's something that would take me a lot of like convincing to do. I hate sharp things. Like, we had to get a blood test done before we could like be on the shows, and that was already terrifying for me because I hate needles. So I can't imagine going through like thumbtacks or being near barbed wire. Like, every time I like before the show, I will like see some of the stuff set up, and I look at it, I'm like, oh, like, how do you do this? So I don't know, maybe one day, but probably not in like the very near future.
Yeah, no, I can definitely imagine, you know, and I think it as well, like the gimmick matches and, you know, the death matches particularly, you know, when done right, deathmatch wrestling is incredible. But it's, like I said, one thing that I've learned from, you know, speaking to pro wrestlers over the last year or so is, if you hesitate in wrestling, that's where the accidents happen.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you're not comfortable doing something, you're better off just saying, I ain't doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Protect yourself and someone else, and the person you're in the ring with, and that's the main thing. So, but the upcoming bookings at the moment. So you've got Xena coming up in FWA. Where else can people start finding you popping up on shows?
Oh, there's a lot, and like I've counted it. I can't say all of them because I haven't been announced yet. But I think counting like last week, I just counted in my hand that there was like I think 7 promotions that I'm booked for.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of them are new as well. So I guess I'm in demand. I'm just trying to think what I'm allowed to say because there's quite a bit.
Look, no, that's okay. I don't want to get you heat with anyone.
Yeah.
Those 7 bookings just became 3
you'll
real
see me
quick.
everywhere. So you'll see me everywhere.
No, 100%, and I get it. But like as far as like character in wrestling, have you like what would you say that your character? You said you're a character who's like to be annoying, and like a dickhead. But like, what's the more in depth to the character for you? Like, what do you want to eventually have your character transform into? Like, have you had a thought out plan character wise?
I don't have like a set thing. I'm more fill it out kind of thing, especially with like different crowds, like because I've been working in so many different places, all the crowds are different, so I kind of adjust myself to that and what like the promoters want out of me. I know that's like a little weakness of mine that I don't have like a set character. I'm a bit more like volatile and kind of just work whatever suits kind of thing. So
but that's a good thing. That's being able to adapt to your surroundings and being able to deliver, and that's probably something a bit more beneficial to promoters that are booking you, because you can be versatile and saying, hey, I need the character to be tweaked up to this or something else, then you can make those adjustments. But
and another thing, like because I know so many people say their characters like themselves like turned up to 100, but it sounds weird, but like because I'm so young and I'm like only 21, I'm still like kind of figuring out who I am, so I can't exactly like say that like I'm dialed up kind of thing, because like as I'm young, like I'm still kind of figuring out who I am. So as I wrestle more and grow up more, that's gonna kind of
that's a pretty mature, like some deep shit that you just dropped here on Shooting the Shit. Like 20 as soon as you said
I'm about this,
as soon as you said I'm 21, I just went, fuck, I am so old. I was like, fuck, man, I feel old now. But no, like I think that by saying that is like exactly right. Like at 21 years of age, like I didn't know who the fuck I was. Like how can you say, I think you have like people can have the personal and the characteristics and they can figure it out that way. But like I think what you said like hit the nail on the head. Like that was 100% spot on. And that's the thing, like where and you see wrestlers over time, like you see say someone like Chris Jericho from the 90s wrestling in WCW to 2021 wrestling in AEW and doing the character that he's doing now, and the knowledge that he knows now that he didn't know back. You know what I mean? Like you learn,
completely different.
Yeah, it's learning the business, and it sounds like that you're really sort of just taking in as much as you can, as often as you can, and as often as you're wrestling as well. So, and I think that that's the main important thing, right? Like you have to be open to learning in anything that you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but have you ever thought about like how you would go as a trainer, like training people in wrestling? Is that something that you'd eventually like to see yourself doing?
Not really. I feel like I'm bad at explaining things, so it's never really something like I see like a PCW. Sometimes we have like guest trainers, and it'll be people that like have been wrestling for like a less amount of time as I have, and I'm like, there's no way I could possibly do it. I'm not good at explaining things, so it's not really something that I really am interested in doing, I guess. I prefer like learning, I guess. And
I think that that's you know, there's people that can do it, and then there's people that can teach it, you know. And I think you look at it, stuff like even football coaches, you know, it doesn't mean like the best football coaches were the best players, or the best players become the best coaches. It's, you know, it's completely different. And, you know, but that's the thing, you know. How did you find, as far as like putting the move set together, was that sort of challenging as well? Because I can imagine like a lot of people think, oh, it's, you know, pro wrestling's easy, I'll start training next week, I'll be under contract in WWE in about a month, and, you know, I'll face John Cena at WrestleMania, I'll get it done. But like, I think when people sort of get into it, the difficulty of putting things together as far as like footwork, basic move sets, how was it for you learning those skills?
I mean, wrestling wise, I picked it up pretty like quickly. Like I said before, I've always been active as a kid and always like learning. I tried so many different sports, so just like doing wrestling was kind of easy. But what was I saying? Like moveset, like you said before, like putting together like a moveset. Even now is a bit of a struggle because like I'm a smaller person. I can't like the most basic wrestling move is a body slam. I can't do that to many people. So I need to find moves that I can hit on everyone. And that makes it hard to like even find like a finisher as well. So you have to find one that you can hit on everyone as well. But yeah.
Oh, 100%. And but I think now it's like with, you know, it's professional wrestling. You look at the body types of men and women in professional wrestling now, and it's completely changed to what it was like 30 years ago, where it's, you know,
Very
there's
diverse.
guys that are, very diverse. You know, you look at, you know, AEW, like Marco Stunt, he's like 4'9", you know, but like even
me.
but even then it's like everyone can work with everyone, and it's just learning what's believable and what's, you know, like I said, being able to suspend that disbelief in wrestling is a big thing. Like for me, when I sit down and watch it, like if it's something too far out of left field, I'm like, that's some crazy whack shit. You know what I mean? Like, but like, yeah, but that's the sort of fan that I am. But you know, anything can be made to look believable if the time and effort is put into it. And, you know, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to like, that made me think about like intergender wrestling as well. Just because like people say like it's not like realistic, but then you have like guys like Rey Mysterio wrestling like the Big Show. So I forgot what point I was trying to make here.
No, I get where you're saying. Like, you're seeing someone like Rey Mysterio going over the Big Show for a world title, and
so it makes sense for me to like, I could wrestle guys that are like bigger than me if like he can do that with like the Big Show.
Yeah, look, and you know what? Anything can be made to look believable, and it's like you know, it's like, you know, it's like any type of wrestling, like even deathmatch wrestling. Like there's some deathmatch wrestling which is complete garbage, and, you know, deathmatch wrestling which is done right is amazing. And it's the same with intergender wrestling as well. You know, like if you've got, you know, a guy who's 6'5" going up, you know, against the, you know, any opponent, male or female, that's 5 foot, and yeah, a clean finish in 30 seconds. Come on, that's not going to be believable for anyone for physical dynamic. But there's ways that in wrestling where they make things work, and I think that fans need to sort of, you know,
and that's
know their
beauty
role
about wrestling too.
100%. You know, it's the beauty of having a different aspect and being able to appreciate a different style. And good wrestling's good wrestling. It doesn't matter who's doing it. So, but, you know, when you started, was there a lot of other females training when you were wrestling?
There was about 3, I think, and one of them included Indy Hartwell, who's in NXT right now.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so mainly we worked together, and I had plenty of matches with Indy as well. But yeah, it was still very small. But now it's even worse at PCW. I'm the only girl that trains there, so they've started to bring some girls in like Kellyanne for me to have like a program with as well. So yeah, that's been really good.
Oh, 100%. And it at least gives you that experience as well, like from someone like Kellyanne coming in and, having that match and, obviously you beating Kellyanne, as you mentioned a couple of times earlier. So, just trying to get that gimmick started for you, But, what has been like one of the biggest, like, as far as inspirational moments for you, though, like in wrestling? Like, has there ever been a time where you're like, fuck, this is just getting so hard? Like, I need to tap out. Was there ever a moment for you like that where something then just happened and it just clicked and you're like, nah, fuck that. Here I am and I'm going to go balls or guns to the wall?
I mean, I guess just how this year started for me in terms of wrestling has like really sparked something for me. Felt like before COVID, I was a little burnt out. And just a little bit stressed out. But I feel like everything's been going well this year. Like I said, I've been booked by all these like different companies, so it's just a really exciting time for me. Yeah.
No, and look, that's the best thing is being able to sort of get that spike and that energy coming back, and seeing those better performing matches, and at those shows as well. And as you're saying, you're being booked by quite a few places and getting out there, which is great, and where you need to be. But where can everyone find you and find you on social media, Aysha?
So my Twitter and Instagram is at Aysha_RB4K. I got a Facebook page. If you just type in like Aysha Wrestler, you'll find me. I also did stream on Twitch, not that much, but I'll stream sometimes if I feel like it, and that's also at Aysha_RB4K.
There you go, guys. Go over there right now. Subscribe, follow, check out Aysha's Gaming. Her and her partner Murdoch. They have some pretty interesting gaming nights on Twitch. Make sure you go and check that out. But that's another thing I wanted to ask you about as well, with being in the business with your partner and almost like a tag team with your partner as well. Like it must be like that extra bit reassuring for both of you guys, having that. Obviously the person that they're in a relationship with to lean on the most in the same passion that you guys have.
Yeah, it's great. And like we've been close, like before we were dating, we were like best friends. I was the first person to actually talk to him when he started training. So we pretty much went through everything together, like going through like being new at training, debuting together, like getting bookings together, and now tagging together. We pretty much like gone through everything together, and like it's not even just like wrestling. We like have in common, like obviously we like video games as well, and we got like a lot of stuff in common. So it's like it's really good to like have him by my side.
Yeah, he goes all right, Murdoch, doesn't he?
He's all right. He does get hidden a few times, but he's all right.
But how do you find like being tag team wrestling though? Like, is being in a tag team, much more different to being obviously in a singles run? Like, how do you find tagging as opposed to being a single?
I mean, I've been a tag champion with Semi Falcon in PCW, so I have a bit of experience, but I don't know, I still preferred singles, and tag matches used to stress me out because there's so much like logistics to go into it, and like you have to like everyone has to be in the right spot, or otherwise just gonna like screw everything up. So like it used to actually stress me a lot. But tagging with Murdoch has been like really fun, and has kind of gotten rid of the stress because like I have, not that I didn't trust Sammy Falcon, but like I have someone that's like my life partner essentially as my tag partner. So yeah, that's just been really fun to have. Especially my first match back was in a tag with Murdoch, so that kind of like got rid of some of the stress levels and was like reassuring to have him by my side there.
And how did the tag team name Misspent Youth get created? Like that's a pretty cool name. That's a pretty
cool name, right?
It's so dope. It's like what was like Colt Cabana's one? It was like the Second City Saints or some shit in Ring of Honor, and it's like that's just so cool. Like
we didn't come up with that. That was given to us, and we really like it.
Even better. Like, someone, but like, and like, can you tell us who came up with the name?
Jay, one of the guys that runs DMDU.
Right. Yeah, no, he's been on the show before. Like, yeah, so no, but huge shout out to Jay. He's a music guy, so I knew the reference was there from must have been something to do with music, because I was like, Miss Piggy, that's so fucking badass.
Yeah,
definitely cool tag team name. But guys, look, we are going to wrap it up. Aysha, thank you so much for being a guest on Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It's been a pleasure to have you. And as we discussed before the show, I'd love to get you and Murdoch on together one night, and we can do an episode of this. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you guys are down for it. So
absolutely.
That's great to hear. But guys, look, thank you so much for tuning in, watching. Make sure you punch out and like that like button somewhere along there, hit that subscribe button, do me a favor. But guys, until later in the week, I've got a surprise guest coming up for you guys on the weekend, which you're just going to have to wait out and watch out for social media. The name will be dropping in the next couple of days, so keep an eye out. But guys, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching Shooting the Shit.